Hey everyone, guess what? We do not have ugly swag. We have spaced out radio gear that you're going to want to wear. Why? Because no one wants to wear ugly clothing. So head on over to spacedoutradio.com and go shopping today. You'll be glad you did. And it's a great way to support our show. Once you get your gear, send us a picture of you rocking out in your SOR swag. spacedoutradio.com. Shop there today. And make yourself look good.
Welcome to Spaced Out Radio, the After Hours radio show with me, your host, Mr. Rob G. It is going to be an awesome show tonight. We are going to raise our vibration. We're going to raise our frequency because we need it right now, and we have to do that with Debz Shakti. So that's why we have her here tonight to help raise the vibration levels here, and we're going to get into consciousness. Are we experiencing the energy shift right now? I think we are. We'll kind of go into that and a lot more for hours 1 and 2. And we'll get in with Drew Banky, After Hours wrap up, along with Steve Stockton, Tells Untold Missing Person Mysteries, some UFO weird news of the week, and some general UFO conversations. So make sure you don't go anywhere. Make sure you stay right here where you're at, Space Out Radio, After Hours radio show. Let me go ahead and jump out in the chat real quick and see who has made it in first. Think we got, Kitty Catty Whack is reporting in first 3 in. Kitty Catty Whack with the gold. We got Race Fan with the silver. And Mothman with the bronze. Appreciate you guys all coming in bright and early. Let's see who else is out here. We got the Roswell 80 Alien 47. Oh, the weekend shows are earlier. Sweet. Yeah, we definitely went back an hour because we want to show some love to the East Coast viewers and also guests, right? Make sure that we can get you in and out before it's time to go to bed. Appreciate you coming in. Also, Mike Jones, Mike Jones, and good evening all. Appreciate you coming on in, Mike Jones. We got the Roswell 87 saying this is going to be good. I had to bring that up because I feel the same way, right? Anytime Deb steps in here, that's the kind of the feeling, the general consensus. We got Miss Catherine Jones saying, hello, Mr. Rob G. Hello, Miss Catherine Jones. Thanks for coming on in. We have Operation Shutdown. Hello, Mr. Rob G. Hey, Operation Shutdown. Thanks for coming into the show. Super crazy movie geek. Oh, yeah, we want retribution. That's true. That's the fact. That's why we play it before and after the show. Thanks for coming on in. We have Alpine Fur saying good evening all. Thanks for coming on in, Alpine Fur. We have Algaray tuning in from the gym over on Twitch. Thanks for showing on up here. We got, I think Kurt M is in the building here, trying to get to as many people as possible. We got, Polly Rotterman saying, hey, Robbie G. Hello, everyone. Thanks for coming on in, Polly Rotterman. You know, we appreciate you showing on up. Drew Banky in the back saying, LFG. I think you guys know what that means. It means let's freaking go. And we're going to do that here tonight. I said Matthew Goodka, right? Matthew Goodka, thanks for coming on in. Appreciate you showing on up to the show tonight. We are going to get ready to start the podcast side of this here right about now. Welcome to Spaced Out Radio, the After Hours radio show. It's me, your host, Mr. Rob G. Tonight, we're going to have a fantastic show, raising our energy levels. Our consciousness is under attack right now. Debz Shakti stepping in for hours 1 and 2. We also have Drew Banky with After Hours wrap up, hour 3. Steve Stockton tells untold missing person mysteries. And also, we're going to dive into some UFO and weird news. And we're going to be setting things up for a great show also that we have going on tomorrow, guys. Let's go. Greetings, space travelers. Welcome home. You just tuned your dial to Spaced Out Radio, the only place where you can own the night. I'm your host, Mr. Rob G. And tonight, we're broadcasting on our terrestrial affiliates across North America, plus digitally on digital platforms all around the world. Don't forget, you can access our archives. They're absolutely free. youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. And hey, while you're there, please consider hitting that subscribe button. Also, don't forget to follow us on X and Instagram at Spaced Out Radio. That's Spaced Out Radio Show. Our website is Spaced Out Radio, where the options are endless. You can stay up to date with the SOR Newswire. You can get yourself some official Spaced Out swag. Plus, you can rock out to the man you hear right there, Mr. Ron Bumblefoot, knows so much more. We're going to have a great show tonight. Debz Shakti is going to step in the building and raise our energy levels. I think the world needs it. We'll be doing that in hours 1 and 2. Also, we'll be getting in with Drew Banky with that hour's wrap-up in hour 3, along with Steve Stockton tells untold missing person mysteries. Just anticipating a fantastic show, and we appreciate everybody who has come on in here tonight. We're not going to delay any. We're going to ask the question, consciousness, are we experiencing an energy shift? And we're going to do that with our guest, Debz Shakti, bringing her in the building. Hey, Debz, how you doing?
Oh, God, you caught me off guard, and I just inhaled my own spit. I am, other than that, I'm fantastic, my brother Rob. Thank you for having me on again tonight.
We have to do it, Debz. We always have to bring you in occasionally because sometimes we're okay, sometimes we're not okay. And I've said this in a lot of shows recently, and I think the world probably agrees with me that we're just going through the toughest time right now, energy-wise. Very, very low. Sometimes I feel defeated, and it's affected me personally, and that's why I'm having you on here today. How are you dealing with this? And what are, based on the fact that you are in the quantum hypnotherapy, meditation practices, what do you do to get through a time like this?
It depends on what's going on. I mean, day by day, I have a consistent practice that I have been evolving for, pretty much my whole life, but really routinely for over 50 years. Breath work, yoga, meditation, being in nature, either out in the sun, under the clouds, or under the stars every single day, touching the earth, being kind to people, being grateful. There are so many ways that you can raise your vibrational state, but I'll tell you, it has been really tough because the energy globally right now is just so chaotic. It's chaotic, and it's dare I say, here comes conspiracy theory stuff, but I truly believe it is orchestrated chaos to get people feeling off kilter, which makes you feel afraid or angry or helpless. And to be honest, that's not the real reality. The real reality, as you know, I always talk about this, is that we are unlimited beings, and we do have the capacity to change anything with our thoughts and our feelings if we focus it enough. And the higher level of feelings we focus ourselves on, and the things that we put out into the world in that vibrational state, it does affect matter. We were just talking off camera with our brother Drew, who was talking about telekinesis, for instance, mind over matter. This isn't some woo-woo carnival stage trick. This is real stuff. And, but it takes work, it takes practice. And I believe the main practice is watching your mind and bringing it back in, reining it back in from being pulled into the tar pit, as I like to call it, of the global gunk. Most of that is orchestrated garbage, and it doesn't make the news. It doesn't much make social media because everybody's now so, I believe, so feeling so off kilter and afraid of when the next shoe is going to drop and how badly it's going to affect them, that they're constantly paying attention to all this stuff. Like they can't get enough. It's very addictive, and it keeps them in turmoil when in fact, if you could just put that stuff to the side, at least for a few hours a day, and go do something else that is more positive, like being kind, being compassionate. You don't have to do it all in one big chunk, just little bits of your day, taking time to really notice how you're breathing, maybe slow your breath down, deepen it a little bit, bring in some memories of love that you've had, or joyfulness, or success, even gratitude, and then do something to make other people feel grateful without needing something back in return. These are the things that raise your vibrational state. And when you do that, your reality shifts. Some people will say, oh, no, it doesn't really shift. That's all in your head. Well, that might be true. But if your perception of reality shifts, what's the difference? If you're perceiving that your reality has changed a little bit for the better and start living that way, then you start living that way and it makes your reality. So it's kind of a chicken egg kind of thing.
And I think that's awesome. And then you talked there about, it seems this moment may be orchestrated. And I don't think that's really conspiracy theory, because literally I was talking to my brother on the phone the other day, and he's kind of not really into the subject. I mean, into consciousness as well. Doesn't really understand when I talk this way. But this is what I said to him. I was like, what the world is going here in America. I'll just start with saying this. Here in America, we have gone through tougher times than this. There's been, as far as the energy levels have been much lower than this historically. And in the early 1900s, this wasn't the best America, and it was worse than it is now. So I don't really want to compare it to that, but I will globally, as far as everyone at one time across the globe, this is probably collectively one of the lowest energy moments we're all experiencing together. And I looked at it, and I always try to find the silver lining. So I feel like we are going through this moment as a prerequisite to this ascension and this raising of the vibration that we're looking for, because globally, I don't feel like you can get much lower than where we're at. And to go through this, I think, is a great experience, actually, because we'll never want energy this low again. And I don't think, I think globally everyone's mindset will be, hey, we don't want to go back there again. And so it's nothing but ascension from here. So I'm just kind of feeling like it's so tough, but we will see a point where everything gets better again, right? And some of your techniques that you've mentioned, I think, are definitely helpful. With that being said, let's kind of take it back a little bit, because obviously you've been on here many times, but let's let everybody know how you even got to the point of studying hypnotherapy. Let's go down that path for a moment.
Okay. Well, let's go all the way back to birth. From my earliest memories, I have had contact with non-local consciousness, any type of beings that you might call ETs, angels, interdimensionals, orbs, you name it. I've had contact with them, and just, constant, daily. Some are just very mundane things that happen to me every day, interactions and all that. And some were outstanding, huge motherships, going up in ships, changing and going out of body and going to other dimensions and seeing my other selves there, which is something I do in my therapy with other people. I help guide them into that, which can be very, very healing and very encouraging, empowering. But as from early childhood, I had the ability to perceive and manipulate energy and other dimensional aspects, other beings in other dimensions, and because they're all overlaid in one place in different frequencies. I'm a scientist, so quantum physics tells us everything is made of the same energy, and it's all existing in the same place at the same time forever, but just showing up as different forms due to the frequencies that each perspective is oscillating at, vibrating at. So I grew up, at least the first few years of my life, thinking that everybody saw all these other beings and could interact, and everybody could, have empathy if someone was sick, and you could send them, just your love, and they would get better. Or, talk to people without using your words. I was really introverted, so that really was a trick that I learned early on, because I was super shy, but I could interact with other people and other beings without being shy with my mind. And so, and then, it became very apparent that I was a different kid. And so my parents and, Catholic school and all of that, they wanted to shut all that down and put me in that box and say, hey, you can't talk like that. You're a really imaginative child, but quit making things up, basically. So being the good child I was, I did kind of shut it down, but I continued to have the experiences and a lot of learning, which kind of molded me for who I am today. But along the way, I started getting interested in, why am I having these experiences? Why do I have these abilities? When at the time, this was in the late 50s, early 60s, there was no proof that anybody else was doing it in my sphere. Had I been able to go to the library at that time and read a few books that were out, I would have known. But by the time I was, a preteen, teenager, I started, finding out that there were really cool musicians like the Beatles who were learning how to do these things when they didn't come in with it switched on, with meditation, with music, vibrational, sound technology, things like that. And so very early on, I got interested in that. And I won't go into the story, but totally synchronistic thing happened to me where I met a yogi, and he became my teacher, and I became a teacher a few years after starting practicing with him. And I've been a yoga teacher and a meditation teacher for over 50 years now. And it really changed my life, but it helped to explain things. However, as I started going through school, I also have a very scientific mind, and I got really interested in biology and chemistry and physics and math and all of that. And when I started going to college, then that's when everything hit. I decided I was going to study clinical psychology and study the mind, because why are different minds different? Why was mine so different than my best friend, for instance? And that's when I cracked the code with hypnosis. The program I was in, by the time I got really into it, I was the assistant to the director of the PhD program at the college I was in, and it was the premier college for clinical psych those years. So I had the creme de la creme of teachers, studied hypnosis and biofeedback, and realized, well, they're just using a different term for meditation, and they're using a different term for out-of-body experiences, and they're using a different term, they're just using different verbiage. So I got very much into that, became very proficient at it. And then at the time, back then, it was pretty archaic then. Now I'm sure it's fine, but back then they wouldn't let you speak about any of this stuff. You had to stay on script and go to the code of the APA with your sessions. So I broke free from doing clinical practice and developed, by that time I'd gotten really into studying quantum physics because it kind of explained the universe to me and what was going on in my world. So I just put all my gifts together, the psychic gifts, the energy work, and then all of the hypnosis techniques, along with all of this huge body of yogic wisdom that I had distinct proof of helping people feel better, changing their brain chemistry with breath work, with movement, with using their voice. And I put it all together and called it quantum hypnotherapy, or, later on just started calling it all quantum consciousness or quantum transformational work. But that was the progression of that. My clinical practice gave me such a body of experience for doing therapy with people, for listening to people, for knowing how to meet people where they are and speak to their language. So I was very, very grateful for it, but it was very limited. It still is limiting because they'll have you go back to a childhood experience or go back to see what happened when you were in a car wreck, some trauma thing if you're going through that kind of therapy. And it's great. You can go any place and see what something did, how something happened in very explicit clarity from all perspectives, not just your own. But that's about where it ends in clinical practice. With my practice, where I empower my clients by having them do some of these techniques and practice them before they come to the session, it enables the pineal gland, which is really what the yogis call the third eye. I call it the cosmic satellite dish or radio tower, but it enables that to connect to the quantum field so that you can go anywhere and any when and see things through the eyes of anyone. And that really helps people to see just how unlimited we really are. Because, again, quantum science teaches us there are infinite universes. There are infinite versions of you in these infinite universes, and you continue to create more every time you make decisions. So, the person who decided to have the Twinkie instead of the apple at lunch today, that's one universe, and that person's eating the Twinkie, but there's another version of you eating the apple, and it splits off and it creates a whole other universe, and then they go off and start living their lives. So it's fascinating work, but that's how I got into it, and that's how I developed the quantum aspect of this. And I think it's way more empowering because I teach the client how to do it themselves so that once they're out of the session, they don't need me anymore unless they want me. And I think that's the true meaning of therapy is empowerment and growth and allowing someone to take personal investment in their own journey, right? So anyway, long answer to a very important question.
Yeah, a great answer as well. And as you're talking there, I'm thinking to myself, and I've said this before, that it, for some reason, there's within this ufology community, if you want to call it that, there's a segment of the community which is considered the consciousness community, which is a even more niche part of the community. And the thing to me, and it's so hard for me to realize, even though now I understand a lot of it, why so many people are closed off to the consciousness conversation. It doesn't seem to be something that interests a lot of people when we all are connected to consciousness and we all deal with consciousness. Why do you think that is? Why do you think that so many people are not open to understanding the conversation of consciousness and why they choose to exist in this other alternate reality, which people call reality? Why do you think it is?
Well, it's manyfold, the answer, but a couple of the main reasons that I have observed are, number one, all of us from birth in this earth realm, third dimensional earth realm, are being indoctrinated with certain belief systems and certain really just beliefs of how things work here. Number one, unless you can see it, touch it, feel it, smell it, hear it, it's not real, which is kind of silly because, what we breathe, you can't see, smell, or hear, right? But, or what we feel when we're in love, that's something you cannot measure. It's not quantitative data, but for the most part, we are from birth on, especially once we get put in school, taught that, this place runs on certain parameters and you have to stay within the boundaries of those parameters. And if you don't, then you are either, ostracized, alienated, not taken seriously, or worse, you could get executed, for instance. You could get burned at the stake, if you will. So people from birth on are driven by fear-based belief systems. It's a control mechanism of the elite, basically, or whomever that top echelon is that wants to keep being in power. It's not going to stay in power much longer anyway, by the way, footnote. The other thing, and fear is a very powerful thing. So, and people want to, because they have been programmed to that, people want to fit in. So that's why we have trends. That's why we have social media. That's even one more big layer of reinforcement of the whole thing. If you're not like this influencer, then, what are you even doing here? That kind of thing. The second reason I think people don't want to get into the consciousness topic too deeply is because, let's be honest, if you do get in it, even on the surface, one of the big tenets of consciousness studies is you're the creator. You're the one who's creating all this. So if you're the creator, that bears a lot of responsibility, right? If you're just an irresponsible creator, then what good are you? So then you go back to the fear thing. Most people these days especially are overworked, overtasked, overburdened. They're tired, they're anxious, they don't sleep, they don't eat right. They're constantly feeling afraid. And then you have all this terrible, constant barrage of negativity coming at you from all sides. So, it takes a very stalwart soul to say, I don't care. I'm going to stand up to all that. And I am the creator and I'm going to change things. The thing you have to understand is you have to change it in here first. You don't, you can go about changing the world on the outside by doing things and starting projects and starting organizations and all that. And it works, but it's a much slower track. If you go inward, get into the stillness, and really do your own shadow work and you do your own growth and empowerment work, the world changes much more quickly for you. Or if it doesn't change so much, what you do notice is it doesn't bother you so much because you understand that everyone's on their own journey and you're on yours and you're going to do your best and it all works out eventually, which is really, I think, the real truth. But most people are afraid to look at that.
That makes sense. So we're going to actually run into our first break of the night, guys. We're talking consciousness. Are we experiencing an energy shift? I think we definitely are. With Debz Shakti right here, Spaced Out Radio, After Hours Radio Show. We'll be right back after the break. Don't go anywhere. We are clear. And Kitty Catty Whack, thank you so much for that awesome super sticker, as well as few people that I was not able to talk to during our conversation here. We had Polly Wilderman with the right idea. Please be sure to hit that like button. please hit subscribe and comment after the show. That would be awesome because, as Dave said on the other show, seems like the channel is being shadow banned for whatever reason. I don't know who's doing it. I don't know what the source of that is, but I can agree that there's something going on there. So hitting the like, subscribe, and then leaving comments, which is very important. Definitely likes and comments is what kind of triggers the algorithm and kind of gets us out of that stuck space. So if you guys wouldn't all mind taking a moment here during this break and going right on over and hitting that like button, and then please, after the show, leave a comment. Talk about how you thought about the show. Let us know what your opinion on the conversation. It is definitely a help to not just us, but it's a help to those who come and view the show later. They would love to see how, other people thought about the conversation. So that would be awesome. We'd appreciate it. And let's see, who else left something out here? We had a few people I saw. Let's see. Holly, and we have be done with it. Be done with it.
Done with it. Yeah.
Be done with it. Appreciate you coming on in. Let's see. Kim Jellin, Tar Pit of the Global Gunk. Yeah, appreciate you coming on in, Kim Jellin. Gets deep. When you get to talking consciousness, it gets deep because it's the essence of like life. It's the realest you can get, and that's how I feel about it. And that's why I question why people aren't more into consciousness, man. I really feel like it should be. Hopefully through these shows they open their eyes up to it. I think what we're going through now will definitely achieve that.
Oh yeah.
Shroom Cowboy, appreciate you coming on in, Shroom Cowboy. And I did get your questions. You guys are putting in questions early, which is awesome. Just keep them in caps, and I will see them and tag them, and we will ask them at the end of the show here or back half of the second hour. Let's see. Rocket UFO. Poor here versus rich over there. How do I get to there? Okay. Awesome question. Thanks for chiming in. Let's see. Woo Riders DG, thanks for coming in. Talking about, can y'all dig it? Yep, we can. Appreciate you coming on in. Who else do we have out there? Walter Kokubinski in the building. I appreciate you showing on up here, Walter. Also, Shelly Montgomery. Shelly Montgomery, thanks for coming on in. Thanks for showing up tonight and joining the conversation. Polly says Debz is amazing. She is. That is why we have to keep our rotation because we need her. Let's see. And I think we are current there. Awesome. So we also have a show coming up here, guys, tomorrow night where we will be talking about the Age of Disclosure film. Actually, I'll bring that up real quick. Age of Disclosure, Dan Fair. If you guys haven't seen it, it's definitely a must-see. Came out Friday, Amazon Prime. I believe it's like $20, something like that, in order to purchase it or rent it, one of the two. And good watch. A lot of shows are doing reviews on it. None will be like the one we'll do tomorrow. So make sure you're here for that, 7 p.m. Pacific. We'll have a great panel talking about this film, some of the revelations made in the documentary, and where we go from here. What will spark a whole new part of the conversation. 2026 is I think shaping up to be an awesome year. Let's hurry up and get out of this one. Let's see. Miss Catherine Jones says, great film. Awesome. I don't want to go too much into it tonight. We'll save it all for tomorrow. And let's see here. We got about a minute left. We come back. Oh, Polly. Oh, yeah, that's right. I didn't. Okay, I forgot. This is also being broadcast not just on Spaced Out Radio, but it's also being broadcast on my channel, The Social Dig. So if you guys wouldn't mind going over there, hit the like and subscribe as well. That double duty. I appreciate you if you would do that. Like and comment here. Also, go right on over to the Social Dig page and please do the same. That would be awesome for you guys to do. I would appreciate it. And we're coming back here in 5 seconds, guys. Let's get ready to go. All right, everybody. Welcome back. Spaced Out Radio, the After Hours radio show with me, your host, Mr. Rob G. We are back talking consciousness. Are we experiencing energy shift? It seems like it with Debz Shakti here, hours 1 and 2. Also, we will be going into Drew Vanke with After Hours wrap up, kind of going over what we're talking about tonight. So make sure you don't miss anything. It's going to be jam-packed show. Awesome stuff right here on the After Hours radio show as we get right back into the conversation with Debz. So, Debz, we were talking before the break, and, you know, I was sitting here thinking as well, you had mentioned that a lot of these, you know, governments, I'll say, powers that be, which are really the source of all this negative energy, is really and it's historically been that way. And it will continue to be that way unless it changes. But I feel what you're saying, and I do feel, as I was saying earlier, with this like we have to be drugged to the lowest point in order to kind of understand and feel that way we can just do nothing but ascend from here. And I do feel like this whole, I think it will change as well, that the whole power situation and structure that we're looking at right now. Do you agree with that? And could you elaborate on that?
I agree 100%. And I'll tell you why. One of the things I didn't mention about the gifts, and by the way, everyone has all of these gifts. They just might be turned way down on volume until you're ready, or maybe on sleep mode till your timing mechanism goes off. But I think everybody's starting to come online pretty soon. But one of the major gifts I have is of channeling. And one of the main groups that I channel, it's a group entity called the Star Teachers, or the Teachers. For decades, the teachers have been giving the same message, and that is, you guys do it. You do it in this incarnation, by the way. This is the lifetime. This is the timeline that human beings jump over that threshold. They hit escape velocity from the duality and the negativity of the third dimensional Earth life, and they move up a couple of notches. And I'll talk about that later, but they say that we have already done it because, as I said before, everything happens forever. From what you perceive as the past, the present, and the future, it's all in one place forever. And you can just tune your dial, your radio dial into them and, view them, initiate them, create in them, and interact in them. But they say that we do it in this lifetime, but that for the most part, human beings are, have evolved as such to not want to make drastic or conscionable change until they are pushed to the brink of destruction, right? Until they are backed in the corner. Exactly. And so they say that something is going to occur in this particular timeline, in this lifetime you and I are living, where humans are going to have to make a decision. Either we learn how quickly to live together, work together, play together in harmony, and take all of our variables, all of our differences, and put them into a cohesive way of living like the rest of the cosmos does, or it'll be, you'll self-annihilate. But they say that we don't. They say that we don't self-annihilate. We get to the brink. They won't say what it is. Like, is it going to be an asteroid hitting the planet or coming near? Is it going to be threat of a global nuclear war? They won't give us that piece because they want us to have the experience, but not to put fear in anyone. What I'm here to say is it's happening now. And if you want proof that it's happening now, take a look around you. It might take a little digging, because usually what you're seeing in your feeds and on the press and everything is pretty negative, and it's hate-filled and fear-filled. But suddenly, people you never thought would change are turning a 180 and talking about things that are just the opposite that they were, proponents for before. And I'm not just talking about political parties and that kind of thing, but if you take a look even at the news in the last couple of days, that's been happening. And people maybe in your own households and your own families may have been totally against this, that, and the other thing that is a pretty high vibrational thing that you've been trying to talk about, such as the UFO subject or disclosure. And they think you're kooky and dumb, and, they don't want to have anything to do with you at Thanksgiving. And then suddenly they're the ones who have all of this, have just suddenly just been on a nonstop binge looking at all of the data and the documentaries and coming up with their own, ideas about, and agreeing that it is happening. So I can't tell you how much evidence of that I'm seeing right now, but you're not going to see it much in your feeds or in your news. You're going to have a direct experience of it. So I tell everybody, just really encourage you, be looking for it, because what you expect to see is what you are going to perceive. If you constantly are ruminating over how horrible the world is and how awful this guy is and how hateful this woman is, you're just going to keep replaying and getting more of that, because that's how the universe works. That's frequency stuff. That's consciousness. It gives you what you are focusing on. But I can tell you it's happening, and it is happening really fast now. You think stuff's been happening fast lately with disclosure and sightings and experiences and it getting into the mainstream. Hang on to your hat, because it's going to be a wild ride, but it's going to be a good ride.
It is, and I agree with that. It definitely is moving faster than disclosure. And then when you look at it, I think it goes back to one thing that I always talk about, which is, the way for us to make a big change is for everyone's attention to be on one thing at one time, like globally, yes, like we did through the pandemic, in different scenarios where we all got to experience the same thing and focus on the same thing. Now, one other thing though, because there was a point where I didn't fully understand consciousness, and I used to hear people talk about consciousness, and I think it'd do justice to kind of translate for some of those that don't understand some of the terms and things that we talk about consciousness. There's different definitions for that. There's also different definitions for energy. So when people on the outside hear those words, it doesn't necessarily click for them in the moment on what we're really saying. And so, one thing about energy for me, a thing I like to say is, like, when you think of someone who that always brightens up the room, right? Someone who walks in and you automatically, your spirit is uplifted. You feel happy if you were sad before. Also, when you put on a particular song or music that makes you feel better in the moment, movies that kind of make you happy at the end, those are examples of your energy being uplifted. How would you describe it if you were trying to translate to those out there that are just hearing this and not really understanding what consciousness is?
Yeah, if you want to understand consciousness in the easiest terms possible, insert the word emotions. Okay? If you don't like hearing the word, raise your vibrational state, insert the word emotion. Because there is a hierarchy of the different frequencies that our energy bodies go through, that is enmeshed in our minds, in our hearts, in our bodies, in our physical reality. It's all enmeshed. It's all entangled. So, you know, for instance, a lower grade emotion would be one of the lowest grade is fear. Think of how you feel when you're afraid, like really afraid. You can't create from there. You're too busy trying to think, you know, how am I going to survive? Anger. If you're really angry, there's a lot of energy there, but your consciousness is focused on the particulars of why you're angry. You know, what just happened, and playing that over and over again, and building that fire up. Those are very low vibrational energies. And so they kind of keep you, the more you focus on them and think about them, they keep you literally pinned to that vibrational or emotional state. So you keep getting what you were experiencing. So it behooves people to become more self-aware, consciously self-aware of what their emotional state is. So, and if you can't tell, I mean, most people just get in their emotions and they don't think. They're just automatic pilot, right? In neuroscience, it's called the default mode network in your brain. You go to the thing that that you trust the most to survive when you are in trouble. So, you know, if your default mode network says, oh gosh, that guy just cut me off in traffic, I better get really angry and rage at him and show him what's for, or he's going to come after me, you know, that's just kind of a buildup of that energy, and it pins you to that reality. So pretty soon, every time you're in traffic, that's what happens constantly. If you are being more conscious and you catch yourself every once in a while thinking, oh gosh, I just got really angry, like overly angry at somebody who just probably was in a hurry. Maybe their kid was sick or something, and they cut in front of me. Well, why did I waste all my energy on that? You know, and why did I make myself feel so bad? Because anger does not make you feel good. So there are techniques that you can do that I teach that help you raise your vibrational state into a frequency where you're no longer attached to that reality, to that emotional content. Things like changing the way you're breathing. When you're angry or upset, more than likely you're holding your breath or you're breathing really shallowly and really rapidly. If you can consciously catch yourself and then start to breathe in very slowly and breathe out even more slowly, that's going to get your parasympathetic nervous system engaged, and it's going to calm you down, and suddenly your brain starts working better. Because the brain shuts down when you get in those lower vibrational states. It takes too much energy for that little computer to work that hard, so it starts shutting down certain aspects of your being just to keep feeding that energy. But if you can slow it down, if you could even do a few cool tricks, like, you know, if you find yourself being very anxious, looking around and naming everything out loud that you can see that's red. It's a pattern interrupt for that default mode network. And it will knock you out of that, and suddenly you'll be able to think clearly again. And most importantly, you'll be able to create something better. We were born creators, and you cannot create when you're in a low vibrational state or emotional state. So consciousness for me is about understanding, at least from the human perspective, that emotions are kind of the energy that runs that machine. And depending on what, it's like gas for your car, right? You don't put the cheapest gas into a Ferrari. It's not going to run right. And you don't put the most expensive gas in a Toyota because it's not made to take that, right? So you have to put the right fuel in there, and the fuel that our consciousness needs to really create and be happy and not get stuck in anxiety or sadness or fear is literally doing something different. And often it is a physical thing at first that gets you back inside where you can go into the deep inner self and change it from there. Still might sound too esoteric, but
No, it was excellent because I think as long as they understand, you gave the perfect thing, emotional instead of energy or vibration. So that was perfect.
yeah.
When you think about the word, another common word that's used just in everyone's vocabulary is karma. And so karma would appear that ties to energy. Like, is karma to you a real thing, being that you studied this, and is karma a real thing, and how does that convert into like the conversation we're having now?
Sure, karma is a real thing. It is part of the construct of reality with the capital R, by the way. But karma, the way that it is perceived and tossed around, especially in Western civilization, we've taken it and turned it, again, those who want to keep us in fear have turned it into a word that equals punishment. You better watch out or karma's going to get you, right? Cause and effect. And karma is cause and effect, but it's cause and effect by way of teaching you something. It's your great teacher. It is your lesson plan. Karma is just a way of bringing things to your attention that you came here to work on, or that you need to work on next, that you need to work on now. It's like a teacher coming around and seeing that you're reading a comic book instead of your history chapter that you're supposed to be reading, and saying, hey, let's put the comic book away till break. Let's get back to the history chapter. Well, if you don't, and the teacher, karma, sees you reading the comic book again, then there's going to be a consequence to bring your attention more forcibly back to the history chapter, right? So karma is sometimes seen as punishment because most human beings don't want to listen to the teacher, and they just want to do their own thing, and they're very comfortable doing the same thing over again and over again and over again without thinking about the fact that if you did take a chance and read the history chapter in your book, you might learn something really cool that's applicable to your life. Not saying the comic book wouldn't either, but in this instance. So a lot of folks, myself included, during their life cycles, will make choices and have consequences, have outcomes. And maybe they're not outcomes that you would like to have. You want to change that. But if you keep making the same choices, you're going to get the same outcomes. Only the way that karma works is every time you don't quite ace the chapter test, it brings the lesson back really more profoundly. So, at first, karma might just tap you on the shoulder when you're going not the best direction in your decision making, let's just say. And you might not notice it. Then it might kind of, take your hand a little more structured. Probably still not going to pay attention if for long. Then maybe it, makes you stub your toe and fall down so that you'll stop and pay attention to what's happening. And if you still don't take the time to get the chapter test right, eventually it's going to run you into a tree where you will have so much pain that you have to pay attention to it, or so much shock, or so much, insert appalling or awe-inspiring or shocking thing here. And that's why people think it's a punishment, but it's not. But karma is the way that we teach ourselves in this school for the soul, third dimensional earth life, who we really are and how to get back to where we were. This is just a little experiment that we built for ourselves to experience limitation and emotions and things like that. Most of the cosmos does not live this way. And I can tell you, I've seen it myself in, the out-of-body experiences I've had. Countless quantum hypnosis sessions where people see their own death in one of the lives that they're looking at, and they ascend out of the body. And every single time they start reporting things like, oh, Earth life is just it's like a play. It's like everybody puts costumes on and plays parts to have some experiences. It is not the real reality. It's a speck of reality, but it's not the whole thing. And how funny, because everybody is just as divine as the next person. But when you've got those costumes on and you're playing roles, reading from a script that you all wrote before you came in, and then you decided not to remember that you were in a play, that can get pretty daunting, But once you see it, you can't go back. And then you don't have any fear. You don't have fear of consequences of, well, if this politician makes this decision and it's going to just ruin my life, and then you start getting angry and you start doing all kinds of crazy things and getting upset, and pretty soon you've lost your way about why you came here, right? So, and I just use politics a lot now because it's just such a powerful force globally. I think the powers that want to stay in power aren't even political. I think they are even over that. But the other thing the teachers always say is those who think that they are running the world are being played just like little chessmen on a chessboard by those of us who are your kind of elder brothers and sisters. And we're just guiding everything. So don't buy into the narrative that everything is, just gone to hell and it's not ever going to get better, because it's up to you to make it better. And the best way is to go in and really get to know that part of you that is super divine, that is source. And so there are many pathways up that mountain. I teach a lot of them. There are so many great teachers now. We're living in the greatest time I think ever has been on Earth, where talented teachers and guides are everywhere. Every street corner, you can find somebody to help you find your way out of the tar pit.
Yeah, and it seems like, especially in today's age, social media, even YouTube, we're broadcasting on YouTube, but even YouTube has been like a source of a lot of this negative energy. Mm-hmm. And you find yourself somehow attracted to it, and then you're indulging in it. Mm-hmm. And I found it took me a moment, but one day I just realized, let me just disconnect from that. Let me just not. Yes. Let me just walk away and do something else that makes me feel better in order to escape that energy. And as simple as that, really, at the end of the day. What would you say to that? We have about 30 seconds.
That's becoming consciously self-aware, and congratulations, that's exactly right.
Wow.
Neuroscience teaches us that we create chemicals in our brains that reinforce the emotional state that is most sustained that you're in. So it takes becoming consciously self-aware to go do something different, like draw something or go dance or listen to some music or be nice to somebody for a while to break you out of that. That's all it takes. A pattern interrupt, and then you're creating new brain chemicals that create something better.
That's awesome. Wow, we're getting into some really deep stuff here, social, right here on the Spaced Out Radio After Hours Radio. So we'll be back right after the break.
Conversations that move the needle. You're listening to After Hours with Mr. Rob G on the only place where you can own the night. Spaced Out Radio. Spaced Out Radio. You've tuned your dial to the right frequency.
All right, we are clear, and I'll see you in 5, Debz.
Thank you.
All right. We are now in after hour number 2. Let me go ahead and bring our guest back up on the stage here, Debz Shakti. And we will be coming back from the radio break in about 30 seconds here, guys. So get ready. Also, this is the hour for questions, so we'll ask them at the end of this hour. We got a few already. Make sure we get some more, put them in all caps so we can go ahead and pose them to Debz tonight. Let's raise energy. Let's create an understanding for those who don't understand. I think that's the biggest piece. A lot of us who do understand, sometimes it needs to be translated, right? So we're doing it tonight. We're coming back right now. All right, everybody, welcome back. Spaced Out Radio, the After Hours radio show. We are in after hour number 2. We're talking consciousness. Are we experiencing energy shift? Trying to get a better understanding of what consciousness is. Right here with Debz Shakti, joining us for hours 1 and 2. If you missed any of the conversation that we've had tonight, we have an archive. It's absolutely free, by the way. YouTube.com/Spaced Out Radio as we go ahead and jump back into the conversation. So I was talking before the break on, social media, and everyone's connected to it. Most people are in some form or fashion. YouTube is one of the biggest streaming platforms in the world. I technically only watch YouTube for some reason because you only have so much time in a day that I find myself over consumed with it. but then I was being exposed to a lot of negativity and just a lot of bad energy. And who needs that on top of things you're going through in your normal life, anyways? So I found a way to disconnect from it. You talked about that being an awakening moment for me, and I see it that way at this point. Like, it was that easy to do so. So, what do you think it is that draws people into, not, I guess, social media, but just what draws us towards this negativity? And then why does it take so long to figure out that it's very easy to disconnect from it, or just change like the way you're thinking in the moment?
Well, I truly believe it just goes back to, how we've evolved, here in third dimensional Earth life. Charles Darwin said it best: it's survival of the fittest, at least at the beginning. You have to keep fighting to stay alive and to protect your family. And then eventually you evolve where you get things and you have to protect your things. And, and before long, you all have land and you want to protect your land. You want to protect your community. You want to protect your country. There's boundaries, there's borders. And then there becomes, prejudice and all that. And all of this is divisiveness, which is not our natural state. Our natural state is coherence. It is oneness. But this stuff keeps getting stirred up because it keeps us from remembering the oneness, that we are all connected and that we all have something in common. We are all made of the same energy, and we all have the ability to see more in other people than we see on the surface. And when we do, then that's when the real magic happens. Even if you have completely disparate beliefs, they're still a human being. They're still your brother or your sister. We're all related here. So the reason why we tend to go back to the negative is because the ego personality is kind of like a security guard. Okay. That's its main function, is to protect you from, stepping off a cliff or burning up in a fire. It wants to protect the spacesuit. I call the body the spacesuit, right? You're a spiritual being, eternal. But to have a physical experience in third dimensional Earth life, you have to be walking around in a spacesuit, or you can't have a valid experience of that. So the spacesuit is equipped with this security system, the ego personality, and it is programmed to constantly be on the lookout for danger. And then society, those who have built society, have built in this kind of rule, if you will, but it's not a real rule, it's a made-up rule, that anything out of the norm, anything that doesn't look like you, sound like you, believe like you, not from the same place, not the same skin color, on and on and on, is suspect to being dangerous. And so you're constantly categorizing, labeling, which causes more divisiveness, more separateness, when our true state is oneness. So to become more in a harmonious state, one where you do feel that oneness, the easiest way for me is to go into deep meditation. And some people can't do that, but on their own. And there are many ways to help yourself get there. And I mentioned some of them: breathwork, being creative, being grateful, just going in your mind and thinking up things, bringing in memories that made you feel good when they happened at first, and immersing yourself in that feeling state again immediately lifts you out of that lower vibrational state, and it kind of shuts that default mode network, the ego personality security guard, down a little bit or a lot. And then you can see reality in a whole new light. So social media is built on a foundation of keeping you in that fear state. I hate to say it, but it just is. Does it have positive aspects too? Absolutely. I think it's a wonderful tool. I use it all the time. I love it. But literally paying attention to anything that does not keep you in a higher level vibrational state begins to tell your brain to create the chemical compounds that create that other reality and keep you in fear, anxiety, you know, sorrow, depression. Add to that, now in this generation, most people aren't even using their computer as much for that. They are using this device, right? This device electronically is emitting frequencies constantly that are disparate to your own coherent frequency of oneness. It is disrupting you electronically. We are all electrical beings, and it's disrupting the signals in our cells, which cause us to not be able to sleep. It causes us to always be on the lookout for danger. And we don't even know it, because every time you touch this device, and this has been proven in research now over and over again, anytime you touch this device, your brain signals to the pineal and pituitary glands to release some dopamine, which is a feel-good drug. It's a reward system. And it hits the same receptor sites that heroin or opiates or nicotine or alcohol or you name any kind of addiction, it's the same thing. And so you become addicted because you want to feel good. It may start with you wanting to just look at cute puppy videos when you're stressed out. That's cool. But every time you touch that phone, look at it, and to a lesser degree your computer, and to a lesser degree the TV set, but it's all kind of the same. They're all emitting these frequencies. Every time you put your attention to that and not into the inner world or the physical world around you, you are creating disruption in your cells that keep you wanting more. Why do you think if you can't sleep at night, you're like, okay, I'm just going to check that one text that came from my friend. I saw that it came through. I'm going to text it up, text them back because that makes me feel good. But the minute you touch that phone, you get a dopamine hit. It lasts for just a few seconds. You feel better. And then 3 hours later, you realize you're sitting there in bed on your phone, scrolling and seeing all of this other stuff that keeps you anxious, awake, and feeling bad. It is the most addictive drug we have on the planet right now. And I am not preaching to give up your phones or give up social media or give up YouTube. I'm preaching have balance. So set parameters for yourself for when you touch that, when you use it. I could not believe it. On that phone, there is a little thing that you can look up how much time you spent on it every day. Have you ever done that, Rob?
I haven't.
Oh my God. You think the human mind thinks, oh, I probably spent, half hour looking at stuff. Most people are spending 8, 9, 10 hours a day looking at that phone. And they're still trying to exist in the world, do their job, be a parent, be a lover, all of that. And that gets fragmented because our attention is constantly going to that or what we saw on that, what we experienced on that. Because even thinking about what you experienced on that phone or that computer, again, creates those addictive chemicals. So I hate to say it, but one of the biggest things you can do for yourself is to break the habit of being on your media so much every day. Just cut back 15 minutes a day even. And go outside or do something creative or journal, or heaven forbid, you might do a little breath work or just close your eyes and just go inside yourself and be quiet for a while and see what's behind your eyelids. You won't believe what happens. And if you do that in a group, like when we do group contact work like CE5 and my friends and I, we just talked to Melissa Kane the other night. When we do CE5 together with our friend Kimberly Porth and with Chris Bledsoe, people like that. We get people in a group and we all start doing the same thing at the same time that is uplifting, whether it's saying a special mantra, or it's listening to a meditation, or it's just breathing together. Suddenly your hearts all come into coherence, and that power is amplified, and suddenly everybody has great contact. People who never had contact will have contact, because when you're in heart coherence, you can do anything. So to come back and circle back to what you were saying, group energy can literally change things. You're right on the money. And the Paralabs have proven that. Heart Math Institute has proven it so many times. When people get together and focus their intention on peace, for instance, the crime rate will go down in that area. Mm-hmm. It's measurable. And I this is what's so exciting to me, because this is what I love to do, is lead groups in having an experience. And it feels so good to have that experience that, guess what? Those are addictive drugs too, that your brain is creating when you do this coherence work, when you do this oneness work, when you do meditation. It's also addictive. And the more you do, the better you feel. The better you feel, the more you want to do it. And then guess what? You're way up here in this state, and suddenly reality looks completely different.
And there's definitely pluses and minuses, good and bad, when it comes to social media. And, mm-hmm. The one thing that I've realized and noticed about it is that it's at this point, it's hardwired into like our emotional states as human beings, right? So it's mm-hmm. like, it's a control, it's a remote control that mm-hmm. is immediately connected to every soul around this world. And they can turn the dial at any time on how they want to change the global energy level. And that's the thing that's crazy to me. And when I think about stuff like that, that's a powerful tool to have, and it's used for the wrong purposes in a lot of cases. Like you said, you could be scrolling social media, just trying to be happy, looking at it. My girl likes talking dogs, right? So she'll
love it.
The talking dog video and get to laughing, and she's happy. But then you keep scrolling, you fall down a rabbit hole, and now you've ended up at some sort of hostage video where now your frequency is taken down low. And it's just it's such a powerful tool that someone can use to manipulate the minds and feelings of everyone at once. And it takes me back to I always talk about the Ariel School sighting as being one of my favorite sightings, and not just because it was kids, but because of the message that they received, where they mm-hmm. were told technology is bad. And mm-hmm. this would be an instance where you could look at why that might be true, because you have technology that can manipulate the minds of a lot of people at once, and that's a very dangerous thing. And I just to go back, I used to work at Verizon Wireless mm-hmm. years ago, and this is right as text messaging started coming in. And I would be, normal person during that era, maybe was sending a text. You had to do that QWERTY, not the QWERTY, but the single tap on the numbers to get the letters. Right. And that took so long to do a message. Nobody was really doing it. But then I would see the children of customers that I was dealing with, and their children started sending 10,000 text messages a month, then 20,000. Yep. And I realized, okay, now this is getting out of control. And it kind of led into the social media world that we're in right now. Mm-hmm. But I kind of want to just point that out, because I think that is a tool that is, a lot of us may not realize it, because it does bring joy in some cases. And it's very useful in the fact that you can stay in contact with someone that's already around the world. So that's great. But the people that don't have the best intent use it to manipulate the minds of a lot of people. And I think that's just a horrible thing. Now, with that being said, we obviously need some sort of healing in this moment. I know you use a term called energy alchemy healing.
Yes.
So if you could translate for people who don't understand that term, what that means in layman's terms, and then kind of help them understand, what they can do to kind of heal themselves?
Well, for me, energy alchemy is a term I came up with because there are so many descriptions of energy work and energy healing in our community now, in our society. Reiki, for instance, has become as ubiquitous a term for energy healing as Band-Aid is for adhesive bandages, right? But it's not the only thing. And as I said, there are many paths up this mountain. There are a million types of different styles of energy work. There's shamanistic healing. And even within the shamanistic community, there's, infinite tribes and civilizations that have come up with different types of healing. But really, energy alchemy for me is taking your heart and looking into another person's heart and sending them love. And when you can get into a highly energized emotional state, such as love, gratitude, even forgiveness, joy, playfulness, encouragement, things like that. When you can get in that state and you're with someone who is in a lower state or who is suffering or who is like even physically or mentally ill, you literally you're transmitting your vibrational state out into the world. With your focus, you can send that from your heart, from your hands, from your whole body if you want. It depends on how you like to visualize things. A lot of energy systems, use the hands, like hands of light. I just see the person as they truly are without their body. I see them as a divine light being. And when you are able to just peel away all of that effluvia that covers up that package, then you can see that they are just like you. They are you. They are another you. And so to just consciously send love with your thoughts, if that's the easiest way for you to, if you can't figure out how to do that, see them, try to imagine them. Your imagination is one of your greatest gifts, by the way. Imagine seeing them in a more appropriate or pleasing state. If they're suffering and they're in pain, literally imagine them out of that state and doing something that they love. If they're depressed, see them in your imagination as being happy and whole and healthy. You don't have to stand there and hold your hands over them and, recite a whole bunch of mumbo jumbo. If that's your jam and that keeps your focus on raising their vibrational state, that's great. But really, it's imagining tying into that other person or that other society or that other situation and seeing it, imagining it in your mind's eye as in an improved state. And for me, that's what energy alchemy is. It is just taking any type of modality that you might have heard of or learned or gotten certified in and putting them all together to do that one thing. Because what you imagine, you've created on some level. Anything you can think of, you've already created. So again, I say, watch your mind, watch your thoughts. Because if you're afraid of monsters and all you can think of is monsters, then you're going to be starting to, see some monsters, right? You'll have evidence that there are monsters in the world. I get that question a lot from people who, want to go out in the field and have contact with ETs or with Bigfoot or whatever. And yet I tell them you have to be in a high vibrational state of conscious awareness. That's why we do a lot of different practices together so that we can all get coherent and feel really good. Because when you do, that's the frequency that you're going to have that contact in. those are the beings that you're going to perceive. The lens of your spacesuit's visor perceives life vibrationally. So if you have been raised to only believe in, that anything that is supernatural is demonic, and you haven't broken that belief system yet in yourself, and you aren't able to raise yourself up to another, maybe more open perspective that life exists on an infinite spectrum, and that there's just as angelic beings out there as there are demonic, and you raise your vibrational, your emotional state to something that is one of joy or expectation of beauty or whatever, that lower vibrational perception cannot exist in the same place as the higher one. So they may be here, they're all here in one place with you, always, but you're not going to experience them. What you will experience is the beautiful, the good, the enlightening. So it's all up to the person.
And I was thinking as well, the flip side to having the ability to have a controller essentially that's hardwired into everyone's consciousness. And then I'm thinking about as well, a lot of people talk about the extraterrestrial presence waiting for humanity to ascend and raise their levels. And I was thinking, okay, how could that work? And then I'm thinking about the way that you may walk into a room full of people and you kind of just fill the room out, right? And maybe that's kind of what they're doing. And maybe it's a sense that they would be able to feel when the energy changes here on Earth. Do you think that's sort of kind of what's going on?
It is what's going on. And I'll tell you something, having led groups, again, for over 50 years, doing sky watches of every kind, and we're just to keep the example with ET contact. You take a group out into the field, it's dark at night, and all they've really experienced, or much of what they've experienced about ETs, is what they've seen from Hollywood and in magazines and stuff, alien invasion, and they're going to eat your children, and the Greys are going to do an anal inspection and all this stuff. Even the bravest of souls, somewhere underneath there, some of that might still be in there. And so I have to tell people, it's really imperative that your expectation meets your vibrational state so that you can have a great experience. If it's lower and you're still afraid, you're probably not going to perceive the same things or anything that everybody in the group, even next to you, is going to perceive. I've taken groups out there where they've not seen anything and everybody else has. Because ETs won't come for that.
Let's hold it right there, Debz Shakti. We'll come back with more right after the break, guys, right here, Spaced Out Radio, the After Hours radio show is getting deep. Consciousness. Are we experiencing energy shift? Find out more after the break. All right, we are clear. And maybe so, secret. So aliens got no butt hole. I guess I can say that. And I don't know. I have no clue.
There's as many different aliens as there are humans. Maybe some of them do, some of them don't.
TBD. Let's see. All right, guys. Questions. Let me see what we got so far. Let me make sure these are appropriate for the show here. Let's see. Can't do that. But we can do that and that. Okay. Yeah, more questions, guys, if you have them. What is your perspective on consciousness? How would be your idea of raising vibrational levels, guys? Know you've delved into the conversation before, and we'll love to know what you guys think about it. Let's see. Susan Alloway says, Debs, good to see you, love.
I know. My goodness, I have missed her. She's been off the radar for a few months.
True fact. I haven't seen her name in this chat. Welcome. Appreciate you coming back here tonight. Susan Alloway.
Susan Alloway, who has some of the most incredible ET contact experiences of anybody I know.
Yes.
Whew.
Totally aware, and that is a true fact as well. A Quantum G Day. Debs is a legend.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Let's see here. Amy WC, agree with her there. Lots of aliens out there with plenty of personalities. Oh, man. It's a double-edged sword, when you think about it. Because, yes, social media, it can go either way. It's just what you subscribe to, who's pushing the buttons. But I think one positive thing I could say about it is that it does allow you to pulse check the rest of the world at once.
Sure.
Like right now, we all know we can, and through social media, we realize that the entire world is affected in this moment. Same thing with all the COVID event, all the other things we've been through. It does allow you to temperature check everyone else, which is pretty cool. So I guess, using it for the right reasons is okay. But if you allow it to negatively affect you, it will definitely do that. And like we said earlier, just simply disconnecting, which is what I did. It was magical. And I felt so good. I felt so good not checking on social media all the time. It just felt really good.
We forget what it feels like to just be a real human after a while, instead of attached at the brain, basically, to a cool little toy. It is a cool little toy, but, discernment and balance is the key.
Yeah, and I know I've jumped down many rabbit holes, and next time I look up, 3 hours has passed. And it's like we only have 24 hours in a day. We only have probably 16 waking hours, and half of that time is spent doing work-related things, and 25% of that is spent to family things. So do you even really have 3 hours to spend on social media like that, really, in a day? I don't think so.
It's mind-blowing when you break it down like that. And I do have people, track it in my practice, because a lot of them will come to me and say, I'm just full of I can't get rid of the anxiety. I have insomnia. I can't, my life is a mess and I don't understand where to start. And I say, start tracking what you're doing, with your like social media, your phone and everything. And Flat Sixer, I think this guy said it just now, moderation in all things, right? Your phone isn't evil. Social media isn't evil, but we just need to be discerning and prioritize our time a little bit more,
That is facts. We got about 45 seconds left before we come back. Guys, thanks for putting more questions in there. I do see those. We will be asking those momentarily. And let's see. Yeah, Flat Sixer. That's what I'm talking about. That's why I love this community, especially here at Spaced Out Radio. They always put great stuff in the chat. That's awesome.
I know. You guys have the best audience. It's just amazing. So they're very thought-provoking and fun too.
Definitely.
So I love coming on this show so much.
Facts, guys. Debs is a regular here. She's part of the family. You guys know that. And we always need and want to have her to help raise our vibration. And we're coming back right now. Let's go. All right, everybody. Welcome back. We're Spaced Out Radio, the After Hours radio show. We are on the back half of the second hour with our guest, Debz Shakti, talking consciousness. Are we experiencing an energy shift? We need to shift this energy to something more positive, and we're talking about that and a lot more tonight. So if you missed any part of this conversation, make sure you jump in the archives. As we always say, because it's free, it doesn't cost you anything right here on Spaced Out Radio. as we get back into the conversation here. So I did want to touch this as well before we jump into the questions. You have been and are, we actually had Melissa Kane here a couple weeks ago. You guys remember that show? That's also in the archives. You should go back and check that show out. Talking about the Contact Modalities Expo, right? So this is coming up next year. It's your second year attending this and speaking at this. So if you wouldn't mind, kind of talk about, you know, your experience with the last year, how you think people were affected who attended, and let's kind of dive into that.
Wow. Well, thank you for mentioning it, and again, thank you for having my bestie Melissa on the other day, because she's amazing. She is a true tour de force in the contact modalities community. And this expo was a brainchild of hers right after, every year for like the last 8 years, we've had a retreat where it first began with us training people how to make contact, you know, how to go out in the field and do CE5 basically. And yet those of us who are teaching at that retreat do it a little bit more comprehensively than most. We do encourage people, you know, we teach them about breathwork, meditation, yoga, all of this, you know, enhancing your psi gifts and heart coherency and all this stuff before we ever go out in the field. So it's really phenomenal. We always have great contact. And right after the one 2 years ago, Melissa it takes a couple of days to come down from all that. She was in meditation and she got the idea of having this expo within the next 6 months or 7 months. And I'm like, and she ran it past me. And I'm like, dude, go for it. But it's going to take you a couple years to put the first one together. It's a huge undertaking. And I don't even know where you would start. And by golly, she just got on it and got the best people to come. Jimmy Church was our MC. He's our MC this year too. She got Chris Bledsoe to come. Kimberly Porth, who's another bestie, who is, our big contact favorite, putting together Kundalini yoga and breathwork with contact. Wendy Gallant, who teaches mind sight, seeing beyond eyes. There are just so many people. And I think I did 3 different presentations last year. I can't remember. It's such a blur. I do a lot of stuff, a lot of speaking engagements, but I was allowed to get on stage and do a live quantum hypnosis session with a client of mine, Jeanette Cesario. And I had her go to the origins of Stonehenge in front of a packed hall. I mean, this thing sold out. It was amazing. And it was unbelievable what happened to the audience. Same thing. I did a Star Teachers channeling. I thought maybe, 10 or 15 people would show up. It was the whole conference room that we were in was packed.
Wow.
Probably 100 people. And they followed me around, for the rest of the day asking questions because they just couldn't get enough of it. And so this year, she's even doubled, I think, the presentations. Sarah Breskman Cosme is going to be there. Jimmy's going to be our MC again. Chris will be there. Dr. Diane Hennessy from the telepathy tapes and Dahlia and Lidu from the telepathy tapes will be there. Almost all the Bledsoe family will be there doing Skywatch, and it's just phenomenal. There's just so many great people there. I just can't even express my gratitude enough for her birthing this thing. And it's such an enormous task and such a huge financial investment and everything. And yet it's pure magic. It is just such pure magic. Drew was there last year, and he may have thought he didn't reach very many people because there were so many presenters and the way it was, structured and everything. But people are still talking to me about how he affected them. So it's an amazing thing. I highly encourage people to go to the website. It's just contactmodalitiesxpo.com. There's an early bird special right now till I think the end of December. And you will be changed for life if you go to this thing. This year, I think you've even got an older poster up right now. There's probably twice as many speakers on there now than there are on that poster, and all exciting people. I hope you can come, Rob. Oh my God, it would be so amazing. But these are the types of things that we're talking about. Get together. Even if you can't make it to this one, get together with a group of people who at least have the same questions as you, or who have dabbled in different things than you, and start sharing together and having experiences together. And as you do, your group coherence and vibrational state, emotional state will rise. That ripples out and changes the world. It makes you feel good, and it makes the world feel better. And the more of us who do this work, more exponentially accelerated this flip from the negative to the positive will be.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, it is happening. It's happening really fast now. I cannot keep up with the client load. I hate to say the word load. The abundance of clients coming to me now, and the abundance of people wanting me to speak at their conferences and expos and retreats and seminars now, because the energy is starting to snowball. And it's not just happening for me, it's happening for all of us. Just do whatever your part is and enjoy. And that's the whole thing. Have some fun, play with it, enjoy, be curious, be like a little kid.
You should walk in. I mean, that's why children are more open to, they haven't been bogged down by this fake fictional society that we live in, and they're more open and curious. And yeah, you should definitely walk into situations like that. And you said another thing that I talked to Melissa about, which is, everybody does have a part to play. There's something everybody can do, as small as it may be, as big as it may be. And, she took it upon herself to create a space where speakers could come and spread this message and shift consciousness, and other people could do the same thing. If you're out there, you have the ability to put on a conference, do it. If you have the ability to get a group together, whether it's just in your neighborhood, in your friend circle, your family circle, all that stuff helps. And it's definitely it's inspiring, I would think, to a lot of people who may just in this conversation say, you know what, I should do something like that. That's what we need, and we need that around the world.
Right. Start your own book club, start a discussion group, get a coffee chat together. I highly encourage people to do stuff both online, but in person too, if you can. Get together in person. It's so marvelous. It's just so good to be human with a group of people.
Yeah. I agree. And let me make sure we get to a few of these audience questions here. Yeah. They are stacking up. Appreciate the Stargazer for your support there and love of the show with that awesome super chat. We also have Polly Rotterman stepping in, and she's always got great questions. She's asking, do all humans have the ability of telepathy? Is it in our genes or only in some of us?
All humans, in fact, I dare say all beings have the ability, have all of the psi gifts. The way I describe it to people is that in this place, you come into this place over and over again to have different experiences, play different parts. And for the most part, all of those psi gifts, telepathy, psychic abilities, telekinesis, all that, it's kind of the switches are on the off or sleep position so that you can just have a regular human experience. But coming in and doing all these different parts, eventually you start to wake up. I call it your timing mechanism goes off. Something stirs you to look for more. Maybe you saw a video about telepathy and you're like, wow, I had a couple of things happen to me like that. Do I have telepathy? You do have telepathy. but everybody's timing mechanism is different. And so if you're hearing this, if you're watching this right now, your timing mechanism has gone off. And Polly, you're asking that question because maybe it's time for you to, turn your switch back on if it's not already on. I have a feeling it is anyway. But it is in our genes because our physical being is enmeshed with our spiritual being, with our metaphysical being. So telepathy, I like to call it telepathy, by the way. It's not just reading somebody's mind. It's getting the whole package, their feelings and everything. Telepathy is one of the greatest gifts we have. And everybody has had some kind of evidence that they have it. But the world tries to teach you that you don't, because the world wants you to be, those who are running the world want you to feel small and, dependent on authority to tell you what to do, instead of literally engaging in oneness with other beings. So, quick answer, yes, you all have the ability of telepathy. It is in your genes. It's also in your energy field, and everybody can do it.
Awesome answer. We have Matt Gupta asking, what is the differences between consciousness and the soul?
Well, that's a really good question. I believe, and this is just my 2 cents worth, I believe consciousness is kind of the overarching mechanism that, I don't want to say governs, but maybe guides the different aspects of itself, the different iterations of itself, which would be the soul. Different personalities, different souls, but all of them are connected. They're like all of the cells in your body are connected and make up your body, but they all have different abilities and properties and purposes, right? So I think that's the difference between consciousness and the soul. The soul is consciousness, but it is one aspect of the consciousness, one cell.
All right. We have Super Crazy Movie Geek asking, are there extraterrestrials with negative energy? If yes, how should we handle an encounter with them?
Oh, it's a great question. I love when somebody asks this question. I kind of hit on it earlier when we were talking, but life exists on an eternal, infinite spectrum, from all the way to the very dark, negative, harsh, whatever, scary, to the sublime, to the divine. What you experience in any encounter has more to do with your own vibrational / emotional state and how you are sustaining that with who you're going to encounter. Okay. So if you encounter something that looks scary, but you have gotten past the place of being fearful of anything because there really is no death and there is no suffering, that's just kind of a condition of this place, to teach you certain little things, experiences and so forth. When you get to that place, even the scariest looking dude coming out of the weirdest looking craft won't frighten you. You'll just be you'll be objective. And I think that's what meditation does too. It allows you to become very practiced in being the observer without being emotionally connected, without being attached, I guess. And so I tell people, again, if you're afraid that a scary ET is going to, show up during a CE5, during a contact event with a group or on your own, then one of 2 things will probably happen. Either you're not going to perceive anything, because most extraterrestrials that I know are, they're higher level beings and they don't They don't want to harm you. They don't want to do any harm by scaring you. But if you are in a place of, kind of fear and trepidation, you might perceive those guys who aren't as evolved, and that will be your encounter. It's kind of like in lucid dream work, if you come across a monster in your lucid dream and you still believe that monsters can hurt you, then you're going to turn into having a nightmare, and it might not be fun. But in a lucid dream, if you know that monsters can't hurt you because you're at a higher vibrational state than a monster, then you can just send love to that monster and transform him into something beautiful. And it's the same in life. I see it all the time with people. I can be speaking to somebody who is very angry and very, dare I say, scary. And if I'm present enough with them and high enough in my own vibrational, emotional state, and again, just imagine them changing, shifting into that higher level with me, they often do. Because they feed off of your fear, or they feed off of your reciprocated anger. And if you're not engaging, if you're just observing and sending something higher, it shifts the energy. Does that help?
Definitely great answer. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 questions left here. So we have Human Data 8 asking, will the 5G technology someday be used against the hostile ET?
Depending on what frequency you're attached to, probably so. And the hostile ETs that are in that frequency will probably retaliate. So if you don't want to be part of that, get your vibrational state up and start doing something more positive than thinking about hostile ETs and 5G technology and all of its negative aspects.
Awesome. We have Amy WC asking, do you deal with the power of music? I cry at certain music. And I was kind of hitting on that earlier too as well. What do you say, Debz?
Yes, Rob, you were right on the money. Music is one of the most powerful tools we have to shift our vibrational state. I call it sound technology. Any kind of music that you listen to, play, create, in yoga, chanting, humming, anything that deals with sound can literally shift your energetic state. So again, you have to watch your mind. What kind of music are you using? And we don't have time to get into it tonight, but there are certain frequencies of music, of recorded and performed music, that can be very detrimental and controlling of the masses. And we're finding out that that's kind of been part of our scenario for a long time. And there are certain frequencies that you can sing or play music that will enhance your whole experience of life. So music is very powerful.
I agree. As a musician myself, I totally agree.
Yep.
Lee Love Lights 7698. Do you think the increase of solar activity is activating or waking up our hidden abilities?
Absolutely, absolutely it is. We are solar powered beings on this planet, and our star is very powerful, and it is sending some of the most powerful energy frequencies over and over again to this planet in this time as we've ever in recorded history experienced. And then add to that some of the other stars out there that are, we're receiving all this energy. It's all data, it's all information. And it's not just, there's a pretty light in the sky, or that makes my skin glow, or that makes me feel warm. That's the carrier. The light is the carrier wave for data, for information to help us evolve. So absolutely I do.
Awesome stuff. And NPZ2N, which I think is Presidential Zaddy, is asking, is there a secret code to manifestation?
It's not so secret anymore. It's be happy. It's be loving. It's be kind. It's be focused and consciously self-aware and real about what it is that you'd like to manifest without being attached to the outcome and being grateful ahead of that manifestation. I know that sounds weird, backwards, but if you can, again, use your biggest tool you've got, your imagination, and imagine yourself already having manifested what you want, and be grateful for it and feel that gratitude and that happiness and that success in your bones over and over and over again, and then start walking around the world like you've already manifested it, it will show up in your life. And I can tell you that's how I live my life. It is real. It is so real. Ask Melissa, how did she manifest that big expo out of nothing in a couple of months? Holy cow. If anybody's a manifester, that girl is. So
Awesome. And we have about 2 minutes left here. Dead Fish Cheese Spread saying, how do you measure the vibration? I'm not sure what I'm vibrating at. I think I may be at a 1.
You know what? There's a great book that was written several years ago by Dr. David Hawkins called Power versus Force. And in that book is a chart that literally measures the different vibrational states in the measurement of hertz and the different vibrational states of and how they correspond to your emotional states. So fear is always, you can measure this now with scientific instruments. When you're in a state of fear, you're at this range of hertz. If you're in joy, you're way up here in this much faster moving, higher vibrational range of hertz. And so I highly recommend you look into that book, Power versus Force. There's a little chart. And if any of you can't find it or just want to reach out to me, I have the chart. I can send it to you. It's something you could just like paste up on your wall and look at it and say, I don't know if I'm in a good vibrational state or not to move to the next level, or, you know, what's the next thing I need to do to feel better? Just going up a couple of notches on that chart with doing some kind of something, like, you know, laughing or dancing or something, you will switch your vibrational state, especially if you're at a 1.
Awesome stuff. Debz, 10 seconds. Tell everybody where they can find you.
DebzShakti.com is my website, DebzShakti.com. And all my socials are at Debz Shakti. So I'm on most social media platforms. My YouTube channel's Debz Shakti. So reach out to any of those. The website's the easiest one. Happy to talk to you.
All right, Debz Shakti, we love her. We're going to have her back very soon. See you, Debz. Thanks for coming in. Take care.
Love you all.
Conversations that move the needle. You're listening to After Hours with Mr. Rob G on the only place where you can own the night. Spaced Out Radio. Spaced Out Radio. You've tuned your dial to the right frequency.
All right, clear. We love Debz Shakti. We'll see her again very soon. We're going to go take a break, 5 minutes. We'll see you back. Hour 3 coming up next. All right, everybody, welcome back. Spaced Out Radio After Hours Radio Show. We're in After Hour number 3. Want to thank our guest Debz Shakti. Hours 1 and 2, guys. You missed that. Obviously, archives. We're going to have jam-packed hour 3 as we have Steve Stockton, Tales Untold, Mr. Person Mysteries, and Drew Banky with After Hours wrap up. Let's get ready to start hour 3 right about now. All right, everybody, welcome back. Spaced Out Radio, the After Hours Radio Show with me, your host, Mr. Rob G. We're going to have an awesome hour 3. We had an awesome hour 1 and 2 with our guest, Debz Shakti. We were talking consciousness. Are we experiencing energy shift? Because we definitely are, and we need to raise his vibration. I think we did that tonight. If you missed any of that conversation, jump in the archive, absolutely free, youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio, as we get ready to jump into a little bit of Steve Stockton Tales Untold, Missing Person Mysteries. Once again, we appreciate Steve Stockton for being a part of the show. And we're going to jump right on into it, just like that.
Welcome to Tales Untold and Missing Persons Mysteries on Spaced Out Radio's After Hours. My name is Steve Stockton, and I'm here to take you on a journey of mysteries, legends, and true stories. Come, join me on this strange adventure of Tales Untold and Missing Person Mysteries. Charles Ashmore lived in the town of Troy in New York State, United States, with his wife, mother, and minor son, who was 16 years old, and his 2 adult daughters. Now, the family was very wealthy and respectable members of their community. Depending on who you ask, either in the year 1871 or 1872, the Ashmores moved from Troy, New York, to Richmond, Indiana, and 2 years later, Charles bought a farm in nearby Quincy, which he and his family settled on. Right next to their farmhouse, there was a creek, which brought the family their fresh, cold spring water, no matter what the season. Around 9 o'clock on this particular evening, the night of November 9th, 1878, while the family all sat by the fire after supper, either conversing or possibly reading a book as a family or some type of entertainment that happened in the late 1800s, Charles Ashmore Jr. got up from the fire, and for the family, he was going to fetch himself a bit of water from the creek. He grabbed a clean tin can from the kitchen and walked out of the house. After waiting a very long time for the younger Charles to return from the stream, The elder Charles, his father, took the oldest daughter, Martha, with him, lit a lantern, and went off in search of the young man. It was early November, and a light snow had fallen outside, and though it lent greatly to the terrible cold both Martha and Charles Sr. felt right down to their very bones, it didn't deter them. It seemed the snow was a blessing in disguise, however, as in its light dusting, all along the ground it formed a path which showed the footprints of 16-year-old Charles Ashmore Jr. Father and daughter team dutifully followed the path the entire time, calling out the young man's name. All to no avail, as there was no returned response, and the tracks led to nowhere. Literally, they led nowhere. The footprints of the young Charles Ashmore Jr. stopped in the middle of the way from the house to the stream. The snow was undisturbed after they had walked about 75 feet, halfway from their front door to the creek where they got their water. Now, as this came to the father's attention, he silenced his daughter and calmly held out his lantern into the darkness of the night. They decided to walk around the last few footprints in order, if nothing else, to preserve them for further investigation. You can only imagine the stars shining as bright as they can, only late at night on a farm out in the middle of nowhere, full of fresh air, the sky as dark as an abyss. They made their way around these footprints and then onto the creek. Now, as they approached the creek, it's said that all the strength was immediately drained from young Martha Ashmore, and the same can be said for the air in her father's lungs when they chanced upon what they saw next. The creek was frozen over, and had been for some time. It was covered even by the fresh snow that was falling from the frigid cold skies above. There was no sign that the younger Ashmore male had been there. There was no evidence that anyone had been there, in fact, at least not since the creek had frozen and the snow had started to fall. The next morning brought with it not only the warmth of the sun, but also more heartbreak to an already devastated mother and confused family. There had still been no sign or word from the family's only son hours later. It's like he was here 1 minute, he went to get water, and then poof, gone. 4 days passed, and nothing had changed except the melting of the snow. Miss Ashmore, Charles Jr.'s mother, had went to the creek to fetch herself some water. No one was around at that time to get it for, as they had been previously. She had been hesitant to leave the house and go near where her son had gone missing. Today, though, it was unavoidable if she wanted a drink. But the closer she got to the creek, the faster her heart began to beat. About halfway there, in fact, right around the same area where the last footprints of her son were seen, even though they had been washed away by the elements of the melting snow, she began to hear Charles Jr.'s voice calling for help.
Help me.
As sure as a mother could be, not just of what she was hearing, but of what she was feeling as well. Her mother's intuition, you might call it. She was sure of it. Her son was right there near the creek, and though she couldn't yet see him, she could hear him very well, calling out for help.
Help me.
It seemed, however, that the closer she got to the creek, the stranger things became. As she called out to her son again and again, and then silenced herself to listen from which direction his cries were coming from, it suddenly seemed like they were coming from everywhere all at once,
Help me.
but somehow also from nowhere, as she still couldn't see him. Not a single sign of him. Finally, the woman ran home as fast as her legs could carry her to wait for her husband to get home so she could tell him what she'd heard. Now, she was obviously very confused and nervous. After all, she had just heard the voice of her son calling to her for help, yet couldn't figure out where the voice was coming from. Actually, was he calling for help? Was he there at all? When questioned later on about what she had heard and experienced, all of which was chalked up to a delirious woman, unfortunately a common diagnosis at the time, this was a mother who was so heartbroken over the loss of her only son and youngest child that she had gone momentarily mad, hallucinating that she had heard him calling to her. Now, this opinion was further backed up, at least by some, as when she was asked what she heard, she exclaimed that she wasn't sure of what her son was actually saying, other than that he was actually calling for her. She had stated that his words were entirely clear. She heard them as though he were standing right next to her, yet she also remembered not understanding what those words were, strangely. Was something supernatural going on here? Now, in the next few months, with no discernible pattern, other members of the family would, at random times, hear the voice of young Charles Ashmore Jr. calling out for help. Though the voice always seemed to be coming near the creek where he had seemingly disappeared, the closer they got to the voice, the farther away it seemed to move until, by all appearances, it blinked right out of existence. Again, this fell in line with what the mother claimed to have experienced. One thing each person in the family who heard the voice knew for absolute certain, however, is that the voice they were hearing was definitely that of the younger Ashmore. And again, no one was ever able to repeat what he had said, for though they claim his voice was so clear, it was as if he were standing right there. At the same time, it had still been too far away for them to understand the words. Even if he had been giving directions to his family wasn't able to comprehend them. No, this sounds strange. The sounds of help calling from the creek went on intermittently through the rest of the winter and spring, and would seemingly pick a family member at random to experience this and hear these words. Come summer, though, the calling voice seemed to come at further and further intervals, until finally, at the point of around about a year later, it stopped altogether. Charles Ashmore Jr. was never seen or heard from again, and no one was ever able to say exactly what had happened to him. No one even had a reasonable idea as to who or what the culprit could have been. So there was no choice but for the family to move on, with a devastating loss not only to their family unit, but to their very hearts and souls. Now, in the magazine Fate, in June of 1953, a very similar disappearance story was published. Depending on who you ask, you'll hear people swear to the truth of the legend, and still others will attest the story has been thoroughly debunked. Whatever you choose to believe about what happened to David Lang and his family, whether it be a well-written story which originated in the late 1800s, or a true account of something that really happened to a man in the same time period, I hope we can all certainly agree we are hearing more and more true stories just like this in modern times. In Fate magazine, the article was called How My Father Disappeared, and was allegedly taken straight from an interview with the daughter of the man who was said to have vanished into thin air. Now, she was a witness to the strange happenings that day and the days to come. Her name was Sarah Lang, and the story of her father disappearing mid-step right in front of her very eyes is one of legend, whether true or not. This is what she allegedly told the journalist interviewing her. On September 23, 1880, a farmer named David Lang was walking through a field not far from his house. His two young children, George and the aforementioned Sarah, played in the courtyard between where their mother, his wife, stood on the porch and where he, their father, was walking in the field. Right at this moment in time, two men, a lawyer named Judge August Peck and his brother-in-law, whose name has since been lost in the midst of time and retelling, were approaching the house in a horse-drawn vehicle. All at once, David Lang's wife dropped what she had in her hands and screamed, while the two men in the buggy stopped, open-mouthed, and astonished at what they'd just seen. Children also froze in shock and terror. Right before no fewer than 5 sets of eyes, which were almost exclusively on him, David Lang disappeared into thin air in mid-step right off the face of the earth. Despite there being a very intense search, no trace of him was ever found. There were no holes, no wells, no place that a man could have disappeared. However, it's said for years after this unexplained and terrifying incident, the family, the children in particular, would hear the voice of their father calling out for help. Though his words seemed to be clear, they were indiscernible, and the children nor anyone else who heard these intermittent cries could ever make out exactly what David was trying to say. A few years later, a circle with a diameter of about 15 feet appeared, seemingly out of nowhere, on the exact same spot where David is said to have taken his last steps here on Earth as we know it. He was never seen again, and just as quickly as the voices started manifesting, they abruptly stopped, and he was never heard from again either. Now, some people believe that the inability to corroborate any details in the Lang story is the reason so many still consider it to be just a retelling of an old fiction story written by popular author Ambrose Bierce back in the day. While the story itself is unreliable, with no record even of a David Lang or a Judge Peck anywhere in the county of Sumner, the similarities in the above cases is undeniable, however, and the Ashmores did exist and young Christian did go missing. It's a matter of historical record. As far as the details, though, who knows? So could each of these men have crossed perhaps into an alternate dimension? Is this why their voices were seemingly heard right in front of multiple witnesses? It's clear as day at first, until they finally couldn't be heard anymore or understood. It's hard to disassemble facts and evidence in cases which took place so long ago. Many witnesses have long since perished, and records had a way of being destroyed throughout history, purposely or not. Example, in Fentress County, where my father is from, the courthouse was burned during the Civil War, with lots of marriage and death records and tax records and deeds perishing with the fire. So in those cases, there's nothing left for posterity before the Civil War. As bizarre as it is for someone to seemingly vanish without a trace, it's even more strange and even somewhat terrifying, especially to those of us in the paranormal community who are somewhat aware and think we may have some answers or at least theories as to what's happening in some of these cases, for this to happen to someone in clear and full view of other people. Not only does it seem, in most of these cases, that the person couldn't have possibly gotten far, but it's absolutely impossible for them to have gone anywhere without someone else seeing where they went. As we on this channel know and have come to understand, this seems to happen a lot. Many cases have been sprouting up in recent years as well, leading us to try and come up with our own conclusions, hypotheses, and even just our own opinions as to what in the world is happening. Not only here, but other places in the world. If it's in fact in this world and not some sort of alternate reality, where are these people going to? I'd like to close now with one of the earliest and most well-known accounts of what I like to call unconscious extinction. In the late 1760s, in a small English town named Shepton Mallet, there lived a man in his late 70s who by all accounts was crippled with an unknown disease. He was a retired farmer, and his name was Owen Parfit. Owen was completely unable to get around without help, and usually this help was given to him by his elderly sister, who was also his primary caregiver. Now, this unnamed sister apparently was a very good caregiver, and seemed to all who knew her to love her brother very much, and who took much joy in caring for him. So, because of his disability and inability to do anything on his own, Owen spent most of his days bedridden. But some were actually spent with him enjoying one of his favorite pastimes. He simply loved to sit outside by the doorway of his home, which he shared with his sister. One very chilly and possibly rainy day, Owen was sitting with a light jacket draped over him in his usual spot by the door outside of his house, while his sister/caregiver was keeping a sporadic eye on him while also trying to get some chores around the house accomplished. Owen's sister went outside to bring him inside for lunch, but what she found was an empty chair with the jacket draped over it. At first, Owen's sister thought perhaps a neighbor had happened by and saw Owen, who maybe asked to be brought in, and maybe she hadn't heard him calling her. You see, Owen was entirely unable to move around on his own, so it would never have occurred to her that that's what he did. She searched the entire house, all the surrounding property, and then asked the neighbors, but to no avail. Owen was nowhere to be found, and no one had seen him. The neighbors did confirm that they had seen Owen sitting in his usual spot by the door in front of the house all day long, just as his sister had said. They had seen the light jacket draped over him as well. Although an investigation was conducted by the authorities at the time, to this day, no trace of Evan Parfit has ever been found. Now, where did this man go? He wasn't able to move on his own. People observed him sitting on his porch with a jacket on, and then in the twinkling of an eye, jacket's there, Evan's gone, never to be seen again. Very strange indeed. Well, there you have it. What do you make of these strange historical cases of people going missing from farms, some almost 200 years ago? I'd love to hear your comments and opinions, but I do remind you to please be respectful to the opinions of others. Till we meet again, I'm Steve Stockton, and I'll talk to you next time.
All right, Steve Stockton, Tales Untold Missing Person Mysteries. Once again, captivating tales of those who have gone missing. Real stories as well. These are people who are actually missing. And shout out to all their families, prayers, healing energies, all that good stuff. As we go ahead and get ready to move on in the show and get into the after hours wrap up with none other than your guy, Drew Banky. Let's go.
You're an evil monster! Come here, I'm gonna eat you! Get in my belly!
Kick him in the north! He doesn't have north! Go it! That man's got north! You're a monster!
Drewski Banky with the After Hours wrap up, joining us here tonight. What's going on, Drew? How you been, buddy?
Help me. Wasn't that the creepiest thing? Dude, I was sitting here, I was like, I was putting it in the chat, but I was literally thinking, I was like, Steve, please don't put another help me in there, man. I cannot stand, I couldn't take sitting in this office alone. It's just, man, that made my hair stand up. That's crazy.
Yeah, it did the same for me too. As I'm in the office building, I'm in the office building doing this show. No one else is here. Huge building, and it's just me. And so, yeah, hearing that is definitely creepy. Shout out to Steve Stockton. Always, he just brings it. He brings it every time. And I love it. So, we have. Yeah, go ahead.
No, the first one I looked around, I was like, man, was that on the air, or did I hear that in here?
Yeah.
I was like, oh man, it's crazy. But then the second one. But yeah, great guest, Debz Shakti, man, love her. And was talking about her last appearance at Contact Modalities Expo. I got to set in one of those presentations, and it was a full room. Like she did like a live channeling in front of, and took questions from the crowd for a while, like while she was channeling. So it was a sight to be seen. So yeah, go check her out if you have a chance around the Midwest. I think it's beginning of May, and go check her out for sure.
And it's always awesome having Debz on, and I just love her. It's when you have people, we need more people like Debz in the world. We need more people like Debz, speaking out and kind of altering the energy state. And when we say energy, as she said, had her translate that for those who don't really understand energy as we use it, and it's emotional state. It was great for her to go ahead and kind of put it that way, because that definitely translates to everyone out there. So you can fully kind of understand, and maybe have a different perspective on the whole consciousness thing. And because I think a lot of that stuff gets lost in translation. Because I know when I first, came into understanding what consciousness was, it was foreign to me. Like a lot of the terms and terminology was foreign to me, and it took me time to kind of go through the process of learning what these phrases and things meant before I was fully connected to it, and like, oh, okay. So I think it's definitely a service with not just consciousness, but really a lot of the stuff that we use in this community is jargon, should be translated in a way that the average person can kind of take it all in.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it all happens at its own pace, and I remember, me and you've been doing interviews even long before I was a regular here on the show. So I remember some of our first conversations were didn't get as deep as they nearly as deep as they get now. So the growth just in everybody is just at their own pace, and it happens at their own time, and you have to accept you know, the timeline that's set forth for whatever is to happen, you know, and that's where patience comes in and all the other lessons. But everything has multiple lessons, like as you're going through it, and this, you know, digesting what's going on right now in the consciousness field. Debz Shakti has a way of articulating it that a lot of people can digest, and I think that's it's a great quality, you know, just on top of everything else that she does. The way that she can articulate things is a real gift. So and the way she can reach people is really special. And I think that it only shows by how many, you know, her, you know, her client list and people that she's helping keeps growing, and that goes to show. And you know, just in the back end of what I just said. So
And the whole goal of this is to show, you know, the world that hasn't connected to this idea of the phenomena and the moment that we're in, to kind of bridge it and show that these conversations are, you know, as far as what we understand is who we are as human beings, like this is what it's all about, really. It's not about the stuff we're seeing on TV. It's not about, you know, the trivial things that we deal with day to day that are manufactured by the societies we live in. This is the real conversation that we should be having, and we should be focusing on just as human beings, period. Like, let's start here. This is our base, and I'm always approaching things that way, but this is our base, and this, let's grow from here. 10 seconds if you want to go ahead and say something.
no, I think this is going to segue, you know, into what we're going to be talking about tomorrow.
Yeah, definitely. Big stuff coming on the way. We're going to go ahead and take our final break of the night right here on Spaced Out Radio, the After Hours radio show, with the After Hours wrap up with Drew Banky, that guy right there, talking consciousness, healing energies in a time where we really need it. You know, we're experiencing an energy shift, hopefully for the better. Let's manifest it. Let's make it happen. We'll be back right after the break. Spaced Out Radio, After Hours radio show. See you in 5 minutes. If you leave, come right back. All right, we are clear. And let's see. Stargazer says Drew is cool. He's Chippewa, also same as me. You know what that means? I don't know. School me.
I don't know about Chippewa, but I appreciate it. The cool. I think I'm cool, man. I try to be cool. Try to be a good person.
Yeah. That's where it all starts from, man. That's where it all starts from. And I try to talk to some people about that. They just don't get it. I'm like, you get taught that, and you know, that's one good thing I could say about this machine they put you in, is that you're taught, and I don't know who implemented this rule, or this I guess rule, talking about the golden rule, right? Treat others the way you want to be treated, which is like, okay, so you were taught that. Do you forget it at some point during your life, or are you just so overburdened and, you know, exposed to all these different things that it's not the first thing on your mind? But I try to remind people, like, hey, you were taught to treat others the way you want to be treated. That's on a basic human level. And if we just lived by that, if that was like first, then we probably have a lot more positive stuff going on, man.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. I think it's you know, we're all connected. I think we're starting to figure that out. I think it's, you know, not becoming ideas anymore. And you know, like I said before, the idea of oneness, like that I've been shown, like in deep meditation, with and without psychedelics, you know, and in dream states, that the connectedness. So eventually, wire fell on my leg, scared me. Sorry.
Dude, Steve Stockton got
Man,
you on
Steve's
edge,
got me
man.
on edge, man. No, but the oneness that everyone that you get to, like in meditation, psychedelic ceremonies, dream states and stuff like that, that these keeps coming to you eventually. it doesn't become, it's not an idea anymore. It becomes like like a truth, and it's a deep truth for me. So, not every interaction I can remind myself that what I'm interacting with is a part of me, and vice versa. When I'm interacting with my kids, I can definitely see the lessons and similarities and the mirror aspect of creation and the oneness aspect when dealing with my kids, and lessons and uh, overcoming and lessons from like when I was a kid, and cutting like stopping like generational trauma, things like that. But the overall, the oneness aspect is a truth for me. And I guess what I'm trying to get at is when you get to that point, your interactions just change, because you realize you're interacting in a cosmic field that has what some might say called karma, good and bad. It has both positive and negative energy. Karma can be good too, like it comes back around like karma, but that's the state that duality state we live in. And Deb's touched on that, like we will release the duality lesson eventually, like we will move past that eventually in our creation story. Maybe not anytime soon, but that it is written in our path that we will release that at one time. We have to overcome it to move forward. But that fades away when you understand everything around you is one. Like it's all part of you, and everything is sacred, even the stuff you might consider, because at one point in your life something might have happened to you, and then later on in life your perception of that point might have changed. You may have perceived as bad at one point, and then your perception changes, and it's something really good, after you grow and look at it from a different perspective after 5-10 years or whatever, and look at that situation from a different perspective, you can see a lesson in it.
Awesome stuff. And I want to make sure we remind everybody we've been having issues with YouTube kind of getting these shows out there, and patronage to the show. So we want to make sure that we get up out of this situation. So if you wouldn't mind taking a moment, hitting these like buttons, we need to get as many likes as possible on these shows. Also, please leave comments after the show. Just let us know what you thought. The more comments, the merrier. It helps with the algorithm. We're coming back right now. All right, everybody, welcome back. Spaced Out Radio, the After Hours radio show. We are back for the back half of the third hour with Drew Banky with After Hours wrap up. We had a fantastic show, hours 1 and 2. Debz Shakti came in and raised our energy level, our frequency, our vibration, because we're experiencing times where consciousness needs to be raised. So awesome stuff there. Hours 1 and 2, top of the archive, absolutely free. As we go ahead and jump back into After Hours wrap up with Drew Banky. So, Drewski, quickly, if you wouldn't mind, just kind of because, we had the conversation with Debz, and she's just a master at this. She's gone to school for this hypnotherapy, and she's definitely well versed in this. Now, just from your perspective in the, the lane that you're in, because I know you're into like the psychedelics and all these different types of things. How does energy play into that? And if you were coming from where you're at, your lane, talk about what someone could do to raise their frequency.
Well, ground, sun gaze in the mornings. Ground, like put your feet on the ground. Take your shoes off and stand barefoot on the ground. Watch the sunrise, watch the sunset, and look at the aurora borealis when you get a chance. Things like that. Just look at the stars, even. Just because when you're grounded to Mother Earth, you're and Lakota's Uchimaka. So I'm going through this process of learning Lakota. So when your feet are grounded on the earth and you're looking up at the sky, no matter what, it's the sun or the stars or anything, your mind starts to expand because you're looking at everything and starts to like wonder like how many man, it starts like how many stars are out there, like the infinite amount of stars, and then you start maybe see a shooting star or something like that, and then your mind, it helps with your consciousness. But when you're grounded on the earth, that's the most simplest thing that I can say. Get in touch with your breath, do breath work, and these are all things like outside of psychedelics. Obviously psychedelics, like you can go to a retreat or microdose things like that, but all these other things like is free, and it's for anybody to do. And but it's just connect back to that, connect back to the wind blowing while you're looking up, and connected, and seeing how it's connected to your breath. Like I've been in meditation before, like just been out and just been hiking and just sat down, and not really doing intentional meditation, but just meditating, just sitting there, of trying to catch my breath, like going up the mountain, like trying to catch my breath, sitting down on a log or something like that, and then recognizing that it seems like the wind blowing back and forth almost connects with my breath, and just connecting with nature in that way. Go on a hike, if you, but just do something to connect back to nature. Like I said before, start to grow a plant in your windowsill, grow a tomato plant, and eat that tomato from there, or any vegetable, or grow a garden, however big you can make it. Like, but you can start off with just something in your windowsill. Even onions you can just and put into your tacos, anything like that you can food that you can grow, and then ingest from growing. It's you're taking part in one of the very first ceremonies that human beings ever took part in. Before we ever started doing sacred ceremonies, we was growing our own food, and surviving. The sacred ceremonies and stuff came after this, after we got out of survival mode. So the one of the very first ceremonies that we took part in is growing our own food, and sustaining ourselves. And you're connecting back to one of the most sacred ceremonies there is. And it's about our survival, to get day by day. um Pray to water, drink water. You can, if you understand about Dr. Emoto, what I've talked about several times on the show, you can infuse water with your thoughts and prayers. You can take a glass of water and do it yourself. Each and every one of us has these abilities, and you can pray over your own water and drink that and heal yourself with that water.
Yeah, and I get it. And I'll just say I hate onions, raw onions. So onions on your tacos sounds really nasty to me, but I do get what you're saying. You're talking about, going back to your natural state, and just it's something simple. Just I imagined as you were saying that, grounding yourself, and just kind of just taking your shoes off, and the feeling that you feel when you're walking through the grass, and how you feel connected. You feel definitely different than if you kept your shoes on, right? You feel just
Sure.
totally different. So just
For sure.
mentally, it's a thing, and it's definitely, I could see how that, could definitely alter your energy state. You get frustrated, you get upset, negative energy coming on you. Go outside, run your feet through the grass, look up at the
Yeah.
sky, reconnect back to your natural state. And I think really for human beings, that's sort of probably what we should be doing a lot of, because as I always say here on the show, it seems like we're moving further and further away from our natural state. Everything else that we see around us, all the animals and all the other life here on earth, is connected to nature still directly. And we're
Yeah.
like the only ones that aren't. And it's weird because we think it's a good thing, and it's not really a good thing. And that's why I always, it once again sound like broken record, but the aerial school sighting is where they told the kids technology is bad. And to me, that translates as go back to your natural state, dude. Like
Yeah.
going this way might seem cool in the moment, but it's actually, hurting who you guys are as human beings.
Yeah. Water is very powerful too. If you're close to the ocean, go put your feet in the ocean, and close your eyes, and just visualize, the water cleansing your aura, and cleansing. It's it's mostly about placebo effect. Like I tell, one of my epiphanies one time. I was like, man, everything is placebo. Like it's 100% placebo effect, like everything, because it's all about your mind. But when you couple it with like water, things like that, if you're by a river, you know, being here in Colorado, we have, really close, like within almost walking distance from my house now. Well, actually in the backyard, I got a creek that I can just go walk down in. The water flows through, and I can just imagine like it taking my negative energy out and bringing the positive energy in. It's water, it's life, but it's also used. We also use it for showers and cleansing. So it's life, but it's also can cleanse us. This is a ritual I've been doing for probably the past 5 years. Before every podcast, like tonight, and any interview I've ever done or anything like that, I always take a shower beforehand, and I close my eyes as the water's going over me, and really ask the water to help me cleanse off anything, and like bring in whatever I need to talk about that night, or whatever is supposed to be talked about that night, and help influence that. But it's a ritual that I do before every podcast. I've done it for almost pretty much for the past 5-6 years or whatever it's been.
I sat down and had a conversation with my little sister last night. My mother came into town. My mother and my sister, they're passing through, going to Vegas, and we sat down, and I found out, that she is really into this natural healing stuff, and but she also keeps a balance with obviously modern medical healing, because you can't just depend on the one. I think you have to balance both. So it was cool to see that she had a perspective like that, and she was able to speak to it. And it's just, I think that whole natural thing is just something that we should go back to, like just as you stated, the things that you stated, but finding other ways also, on your own, things that allow you to reconnect with nature. Like for me, going out into the woods isn't for me really, right? But other things might be, right? There's other ways to reconnect back to nature, but I think it's just very important. And then another thing, as we talked about, which is really why we had to really bring Debz in now, is because the energy is so low, dude, on this planet right now. It's just crazy, depressingly crazy when you look around and see all this horrible things. But I feel like it is, as I said earlier, I feel like it's something we need to go through. Like we have to go through this. And I'm glad that we're going through this, as crazy as that sounds, because it's painful, but it's like, we're going to come out on the other side of this so ready for that next level. Like everyone at one time is going to come out of this and be ready to just see better times and have better experiences. So I think we're going to definitely grow as one, humanity as one, through going through what we're going through right now.
Yeah, it's like the anxiety that you had when you're about to get your tooth pulled, and this anxiety leading up to that, and it's gonna happen, and after it's over, we're gonna look back and like, oh, that didn't hurt so bad. Like it's just right now, it seems like it seems like everything's going crazy, but like I said, it's all about perception, man. Like from where I sit and my perception of it, it's all unfolding very quickly and more beautifully than I could have written it. So it's happening. I see a very beautiful thing occurring right now. So yeah, there's a lot of crazy things going on. Epstein files coming out soon. This age of disclosure, it's all lining up. And I wanted to put out before I get off here that for the panel tomorrow, if you really want to get deep into it, I'm going to bring up some talking points that the director talked about on Joe Rogan that are very interesting, that didn't come up in the show. But tomorrow is going to be a very interesting conversation, and it's gonna leave off on consciousness.
Yeah, that is awesome. It's definitely gonna be a great show tomorrow. You guys make sure you tune in for that. But yeah, I think we're being set up for success here. I think when we come out of this, we're gonna come out very shiny, like a shiny new penny.
Yeah.
And I just thought of that right now. Thought shiny new penny. I'm just
They
envisioning that we're gonna come
they
out
just
clean on the other side.
they just discontinued pennies, dude.
Ugh, don't even take me there. Don't even take me there, man.
But
Yeah.
no, so just a little teaser. I was watching I watched the Age of Disclosure, and afterwards I watched the interview he did on Rogan. And he's so in the middle of it, I'm like, screw it. I was sitting there watching with my wife. I was like, I'm gonna find whatever social that his message is still open on. I'm gonna send him a message. So I sent the director a message. I was like, hey, if you want to explore what happens to people after contact, like what abilities come, like special abilities come after contact, like consciousness and you know telekinesis, what we were talking about earlier. Like I can show you in person. I can prove it in person, like how to affect matter with words and thoughts. And I firmly believe it has a direct connection back to my experience in 2018 near Chaco Canyon face-to-face encounter. So I sent him that message, and like 15 minutes later in the interview, he talks about uh the next doc that's going to come out is going to start delving into abilities that people have after they've had contact. It's like exactly what I messaged him. So that's a little teaser about tomorrow, and we'll get more into it. I definitely will be talking more about tomorrow.
Awesome stuff. Awesome stuff. So that's a preview for tomorrow's show, guys. Make sure you're here for that. Make sure you go out and watch the documentary. I feel like I'm selling it, and I don't really want it to come across that way. I'm not really selling this, but I think there's still an important conversation that we need to have. And whatever means you have, whether you go over to your friend's house who rented it, watch it there. I'm not telling everybody to go out and buy it or rent it or spend your money on it, but I definitely think that all of this is going to lead to some sort of climactic point in 2026. I think we're ending the year off with something that's supposedly really good, and a lot of important pertinent information included in that. And then we have a lot of things on the horizon. I'm looking forward to the Steven Spielberg film coming next year, which is working title has been rumored to be Disclosure. There's been a few different names it's gone through, but I just feel like Steven Spielberg is going to for sure envelop everything that needs to be enveloped within that film. A lot of questions that people have right now. The beauty of film and movie making is that you can make it whatever you want it to be. Like it doesn't. You could take the narrative and you can shape it into something, a message, that comes through the film. And I
Yeah.
just really feel like he's going to take the advantage to do that. And we know there's other projects that are going to be released. Another big filmmaker, I can't think of the name right now, but he's also working on a UFO related film. So I think we're going to get into some really good stuff. We had a jam-packed year. We're going to do a year in review show as well before this year is up, because I think it's very good to look back at all the awesome things that happened this year. But 2026, I think, is going to be something big. And I don't like making predictions, but I just feel like the momentum moving into 2026 is strong, and that we should, there's some things definitely to look forward to.
Yeah.
What do you got to add to that real quick, Drewski, before I go ahead
I
and,
saw a lot of talk about
before we get ready to get up out of here?
I saw a lot of talk about the solar stuff in the chats when Debs was on. So that the Atlas comet going around the sun just happened to coincide with some of the biggest solar flares that we've seen on record of that we've ever seen. It resulted in aurora borealis that you know a lot of the world seen that thought they would never see that. And this is not the first time. This has happened 3 or 4 times that I can remember over the past year or two in the United States. I've witnessed it a few times. So yes, there is a lot of people that has visions and premonitions about solar flares. I've had premonitions about solar flares. I think it's going to play a part in this awakening process. And I think we're going to see some type of event with a bigger solar event coming, maybe coincide with other things. But yeah, 2026 is going to be amazing thing happen. I truly believe. I say it every year, but you know, it's that tooth has to be pulled eventually.
Awesome stuff. Great place to end that, Drew Banky. Appreciate you coming in for that hour's wrap up. We're going to be doing big stuff tomorrow. I will see you again tomorrow, sir.
Yes, sir. I got my coffee ready.
All right. Take care, man.
Later.
Drew Banky, guys. Drew Banky with the After Hours wrap up. We're going to go ahead and jump really quickly into UFO and weird news of the week. Here we go.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? I've just been handed an urgent and horrifying news story. I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen.
All right, UFO and weird news of the week. I got definitely a weird one right here. There's a guy, man is 71% through evolution into a, quote, black alien that has seen him cut off fingers and ears. Now, this is, we're not talking about black as in I'm an African-American black person. We're not talking about racial things. We're talking about this guy is literally tattooed his body the color black, right? Okay, so an extreme body modification artist has revealed that he is 71% finished with evolving into a black alien. When it comes to extreme body modification, Anthony Lafredo, and you can look him up online, is arguably one of the most well-known figures in the world. The 37-year-old is known for undergoing some pretty drastic body changes, which include removing his ears, nose, and top lip, amputating 2 fingers, and having numerous subdermal implants placed in his head and arms. And that's not even mentioning the fact that Lafredo had himself almost entirely tattooed in black ink. His extreme transformation is one which has been without backlash, as the Frenchman revealed in 2023 Channel 4 documentary that he is often judged for his appearance. When you hear about someone who's decided to chop parts of their body off, ink every inch of available skin, and even have objects permanently implanted into their body, your first question is most likely going to be why? Thankfully, in the case of Lafredo, we don't have to speculate too much, as he previously revealed in the Spanish newspaper El Periódico in 2021 that he'd made the changes to help himself feel better in his body. Quote, because it's something very personal that I feel, he told the outlet. Quote again, my questions about life, why are there only humans on Earth? Why isn't there something more? Lafredo continued. Because, quote, because it's something that fascinates me. The extraterrestrial world is something that really captivates me. This is something he also touched on while filming the documentary, Transformed Myself into an Alien, saying that he wasn't interested in people. I'm alone since I was little, he said. However, in December 2023, Lafredo appeared to abandon his alien project, revealing it had lost all meaning to him and that he would finish his evolution by covering himself completely in black ink. This is something which he appears to be continuing with, judging by a recent Instagram post, which captioned, quote, Black Alien Project Evolution, 71%. Naturally, most of you will be wondering what on earth Lafredo looked like before he became the black alien. And thankfully, you don't have to speculate, as he is shared in a picture online. That's right, folks. He embarked on the black alien evolution. Lafredo was just an ordinary guy, like the rest of us. One can only imagine what his final form will look like. And if you haven't seen this guy, he has literally transformed his appearance into something that looks like it isn't from this world. And I think that's pretty bananas. I couldn't imagine chopping a part of anything off. And yeah, that's what he decided to do. But we're going to go ahead and get ready to wrap this thing up. We had a fantastic show tonight. You know, we raised the vibration levels. I feel like we did. Hopefully we did give you tools to kind of raise the energy in your own life and translate it in a way that's understandable to everyone. So we want to thank Debz Shakti for that. We'll be having her back soon. We need this all the time. We also want to thank Drew Banky, After Hours Wrap Up, Steve Stockton for scaring us tonight, right? And also being awesome, coming with the Tales Untold Missing Person Mysteries. We also want to thank the man that you hear right there, the guy right there, Mr. Ron Bummer Football. He is the man that rocks us out each and every weekend, reminds us to never say never again, because as we all know, the phenomena is real. That means anything and everything is possible, right? If you love the show tonight, make sure you show the love by hitting the thumbs up button. Also, we want to put your horns up as well. We want to thank our viewers online and listeners on terrestrial radio and digital platforms for whenever and wherever the world you might be listening from. We appreciate you tuning your frequency to Spaced Out Radio, where we do what we do best, guys. What's that, you ask? We own the night. Remember, the show's copyright Bigfoot, Media Ventures Limited, SOR, Spaced Out Radio. It has been a pleasure once again serving you as your host. I am Mr. Rob G. This is the After Hours Radio Show. And to all you space travelers out there, it's not a goodbye nor farewell. However, you can best believe we'll be right back here, same time, same place, same channel, doing the same thing again. Much love, everybody. Appreciate you tuning in. Take care of yourself and each other. That's the message. That's a good message. We're out of here. See you next time. Clear, fantastic show, guys. Appreciate you guys coming in. You know, we have to get up out of this shadow ban situation, guys. So share these shows. You know, I know you come in and you show your love and support individually, and we appreciate that. Share it with a friend. Let's do a project, call to action, where it's like share with a friend. Like if you have someone in your life, someone that you know doesn't normally tune into stuff like this. We're going to the holiday season here in America coming up this week, which is Thanksgiving, and you'll have family. You'll be around family. Have them sit down for at least an hour. Let them catch 15, 20, 30 minutes of a show. Let's kind of just bring them in and try to get this message as far as we can and spread positive energy, right? It's infectious, and you can affect the world just by going out there and making that thing happen, guys. So that's how we're going to end the show. We have a fantastic show set up for tomorrow. We're going to be doing a review show on the Age of Disclosure. And, you know, if you've watched it, even if you haven't watched the documentary, either way, come on in. And we're going to give perspectives on how we felt about it. Was it game-changing? What stood out? You know, there's a lot of that going on. And we would appreciate you guys chiming in with your opinions on what you thought about it. It's going to be just a great show. So we will see you guys here. We're out of here, though, for the night. We want retribution. That's how we shut the show down each and every time. Right here on Spaced Out Radio, After Hours Radio Show, and me, your host, Mr. Rob G. Guys, see you guys later. Take care of yourselves and each other later.
Cause we want retribution. Oh yeah, we want retribution. Oh yeah, we want retribution.